Hello everyone, my name is Mike, and this is the Bored Cyborg. Since the release of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, I've been on a kaiju kick. I've been bouncing around between classic and modern monster movies, and even somewhere in between. I found that even in the worst giant monster movies, I always find something to enjoy. Usually the giant monsters that are raising monuments and eating people like popcorn. I don't give a shit if it's a person in a shoddy rubber suit or a poorly rendered CG monster. Two sides of the same coin for me. And of course, I love me some Godzilla, but I don't discriminate. That would be speciesist. Gamera, Mothra, Rodan, Varan, Yongari, the Cloverfield monster, the beast from 20,000 Fathoms, Q the Winged Serpent, Daimajin. As you could see, there's no shortage of giant monsters in cinema, but sadly there is a shortage of them in reality. Today I'll be talking about the granddaddy of them all. The one, the only, Gorgo. You guys know Gorgo, right? Woo! Jesus. Gorgo. That dude's here again. Okay, I admire the passion, man. Yeah! I admire the passion. That's right. Sadly, sir, that was a joke. I will not be talking about Gorgo. Gorgo, yourself, bitch. In fact, I'm talking about the Simian of SWAT, the King of Clash, the Colossus of Clout, the Colossus of Clout, the Great King Kong. But not the immortal classic from 1933, not the gloriously campy throwdown King Kong vs. Godzilla, but its elusive sequel, King Kong Escapes. You see what I did there? When it comes to the giant monster movie, one man's name always comes to mind. Inoshiro Honda. More commonly known as Ishiro Honda, the Japanese master of the monster movie sat at the helm of some of the greatest kaiju films ever made. He's mostly known for the film that started a legacy, Gojira from 1954, but has many other classics under his belt. Films like Mothra, Rodan, Varan, Matango, Space Amoeba, Atragon, Dogora, and Destroy All Monsters, amongst many others. Later on in his career, he'd go on to work with one of the greats, his close friend, Akira Kurosawa, on films like Kagemusha and Ran. But those sleep-inducing war dramas, let's talk grown men in silly suits. Due to the international success of King Kong vs. Godzilla in 1962, King Kong Escapes ended up being a Japanese-American co-production, which was a bad idea. Another bad idea was loosely adapting the story from a short-lived Rankin and Bass cartoon from the 60s, The King Kong Show. But in this case, two wrongs make a right. The story is simplistic and cartoonish and doesn't bore us with meaningful dialogue or insightful exposition, cause that shit is for pussies. The story opens up with Doctor Who. Wait a minute. Doctor Who? This guy looks nothing like Doctor Who. More like Japanese Dracula who unintentionally has the worst teeth in cinematic history. They are disgusting. And every time I got even a slight glimpse into the rampant decay that's happening in his face hole, I'd feel the urge to look into the sun and jam used floss picks into my eyes. Gazing into the abyss that is this man's mouth is like crossing the seventh circle of hell. His teeth look like broken sticks in a dirty pincushion. Anywho, this bumbling Scooby-Doo villain is in pursuit of a highly radioactive mineral, Element X. Boy, the writers were a creative bunch. And what the hell was it about the letter X in the 60s? Element X, X the man with the X-ray eyes, the X from outer space, Malcolm X? Who creates a robot version of King Kong, the aptly named Mechani-Kong? Beats me, you're the one doing the review. Who was it? Doctor Who. He's a doctor, got it, but Doctor Who? No, his name is Doctor Who. I have no idea. It's your review, don't you think you should know who the villain is if you're going to review a film? I mean, isn't that the obvious thing to do? Study the characters? Doctor Who commands Mechani-Kong to bore into a glacier to find said element, but in the process, he gets f***ed by radiation. So, let me get this straight. Doctor Who knew the element was highly radioactive, but still created a robot that breaks after being exposed to it for 10 seconds. Smart. While Mechani-Kong is being repaired, Doctor Who averts his attention to acquiring the real Kong. He's overseen and funded by a mysterious lady named Madame Piranha. Madame Piranha. More stunning creativity. We're then introduced to the James Bond of kaiju movies, Submarine Commander Carl Nelson. His lieutenant commander is Jiro Nomura, played by Akira Takarada. It was cool to see Takarada in the movie since he was one of the leads in the original Godzilla. The third member of the crew is the cute but awfully acted Lieutenant Susan Watson.
Just remember, sailor, I've got lots of castor oil in sickbay. And you too.
She basically plays the Ann Darrow character here as the one who Kong lusts after, but in every scene she looks like a deer in headlights who blindly wandered onto the set. They're all boring as church, and each of them are the most standard, archetypal characters imaginable. They're on the hunt for Skull Island, where they believe Kong resides. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Mondo Island, which doesn't sound anywhere near as cool, but sure. Also, Mondo in Italian is world, so translated, this island is called World Island. A bit vague. The trio reach the island and use their nifty 60s hovercraft to glide onto land. With great haste. No rush. Take your time. Once on land, they're warned away by an elderly indigenous man, and soon thereafter we're gifted our first monster battle. Thank Jesus. Kong appears in his full glory, looking ridiculous and awesome. After Watson's left behind by her heroic male companions who feared she'd face danger, she promptly faces danger. Kong pops in and scoops Watson up, and they copulate. Wrong movie. And much like in the original film, he does battle with an Allosaurid named Gorosaurus, but this time in glorious Technicolor. The battle begins as they square each other up while Kong shows off his drunken monkey style, and then the Gorosaurus attacks. What the f*** was that? It's like a kangaroo jump kick. I wasn't expecting that, but okay. The Gorosaurus hops around, repeatedly drop-kicking King Kong in the chest until Kong's had enough and rips his f***ing mouth apart. Yeah! He f***ing loves that move. Oldie but a goodie, Kong. That's all he's got, really. The trio make their hasty escape. Whew. Take your time. Take your time. But the monster action continues when Kong pursues their sub and in the process gets attacked by a giant sea serpent. I love this thing, and it doesn't seem to have a name or show up in any other monster movies. Once the sub is able to escape, there's a great shot of them leaving poor Kong behind. Aww, little buddy. He just wants some of that human poontang like the rest of us apes. Shit gets lonely on Mondo Island. And considering his size, he probably never gets enough privacy to wax his Wookiee. Shortly thereafter, Doctor Who arrives on the island and ganks Kong from his homeland. But he doesn't go quietly. He is pissed and starts hurling uprooted trees at helicopters trying to capture him. But they eventually get the best of him and carry his hairy ass to Doctor Who's secret Arctic base. Who screws up yet again and resorts to his last-ditch effort of kidnapping Watson in order to have her control Kong since he blows balls as a villain. This dude is the most incompetent evil genius in movie history, and Madame Piranha isn't the sharpest tool either for continuing to fund this maniac. She's like Hollywood in 2019. Watson gets kidnapped, everyone gets kidnapped, Kong is hypnotized.
Release him.
Where am I? Oh. Hey. Eventually, Kong breaks free, but not before repeatedly bashing his forehead into jagged rocks, and the film culminates with a showdown between the two giant apes that involves the Tokyo Tower, and it's awesome. My main complaint with the film is one that comes up often with giant monster movies: not enough monster action and too much human lollygagging. That sounds dirty. It feels like an episode of Scooby-Doo meets Super Sentai meets the Power Rangers, but only the scenes with them in school. You know, the ones that no one gives a shit about. However, I was thoroughly entertained by the sheen of cheese that encapsulates this kaiju classic. And the mandatory dubbed English version that I watched definitely lent to the charm. But the reason we watch this stuff is for the special effects, and we do get plenty of that. Luckily, the legend Eiji Tsuburaya is back working with Honda to bring us some wondrous stuff. And the miniatures are a true standout here. From the snowy Arctic base to the helicopters hauling Kong away, and finally the finale with the destruction of the Tokyo Tower. And of course, I have to talk about the suits. Kong looks way better than his goofy 62 counterpart. He's imposing, bulkier, not nearly as stupid looking, and his fur has more of a realistic look to it. But there's something icky about his fur when it gets wet that reminded me of a traumatic event that took place at a McDonald's when I was a kid. I was with my grandma, going through the drive-thru at Mickey D's. We ordered, and as we turned the corner to the next window, a gigantic rat sat right in front of it, feasting on some french fries that some irresponsible asshole had dropped. I was a kid, sitting in the back seat, and I swear that nasty fucker looked like Master Splinter. But I distinctly remember his coat of fur was slick with whatever feces-filled sewage they had just trudged their way through to get to this point. Ugh. But man, was that McDonald's tasty. Aside from that, the Kong suit is pretty cool, but it appears that they didn't really know what to do with his mouth. And his teeth. Ugh. I guess him and Doctor Who have the same dentist. His face looks like a kindergarten papier-mâché project, and his eyes look like glaucoma, but I'm sure there's some exotic chronic on Mondo Island that could help with that. I want to get high. The Gorosaurus suit looks awesome. Granted, it's basically just an Allosaurus, nothing more, nothing less, but the scaly costume looks great in motion. But in my opinion, the standout here is Mechani-Kong. I love his brushed metal look, and he reminds me of a Kong version of the Tin Man in its design and the way it functions. And it looks like his eyes are made of giant rhinestones. You fancy, Kong. Overall, King Kong Escapes isn't a bad monster movie, but it isn't a great one. It falls somewhere in between, and it's still a ton of fun. I'd imagine if this was solely a Japanese production, without the Americans dipping their grubby little hands in the batter, that it would have been for the better of said batter. Either way, we have giant monsters brawling, imaginative special effects, and good old-fashioned allusions to bestiality. That old Kong's a horny little devil. I just want to thank you guys for checking out my Riff review of King Kong Escapes, the classic sequel to King Kong vs. Godzilla. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, feel free to give the video a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel and want to see more videos like this, feel free to hit the subscribe button, as well as the little bell for notifications. Anyway, guys, I will see you next time. Bored Cyborg, out.